Now, we take a look at some of the ultimates we are able to choose from the first 7 skills. Okay, the first skill deals 150% damage, cooldown for 4 seconds. Okay, the 3 ultimates, the first one over here, you increase the skill damage by 15%. The next one, it's to decrease the cooldown by 0.5%. And the last one, the top one over here, is to increase your personal defense by 5%, lasting for 3 seconds. Let's say, if you are using a fighter, I would either choose the skill damage increase 15%, or let's say I do a lot of PvPs, I feel that it's good to have a cooldown of 0.5% addition to this skill. It helps a lot because I wouldn't want to be running around my opponent, trying to dodge the attack and just use my normal attack. Okay, during PvP, I will want something to. Sometimes we say that the best offense, okay, is the best defense. Okay, so if you are able to attack at the same time and attack fast at the same time, it is considered a good defense for your characters also. These are my opinions. But if you are choosing a knight class, go ahead and choose this to increase your defense 5%. Okay, whenever you trigger these skills. Okay, this will last for 3 seconds. It's a good one to make your knight an even more tankier knight. The next one, 3 skills also, and we can use the ultimates. The first one over here, this particular skill damage, you are able to increase the attack damage by 30% for this skill. Okay. Second, this is the bleeding ability. Every time in a 10% chance, you are able to cause a 20% bleeding, okay, to your opponents when you use this skill, and it will last for 2 seconds. And this is to regain your HP by 1% every time you cast this skill. So likewise, if I'm a knight, okay, if mostly for PvE, I will choose this. If I know that I'm just gonna play a lot on PvE, okay, I will go for this skill. I'll try to max this skill to the top because the first level for this skill is already increasing this skill damage for 30%. Okay, when it increase even more, okay, it will increase further. But let's say if I do a lot of PvPs, okay, I would consider using this instead because this is a bleeding skill and this works for both PvEs and PvP. Okay, and of course, if I'm a tank, I'll consider using this. Okay, this replenishes my HP by 1% every time I use this skill. So it's quite interesting. And for this, the third skill, okay, they are pretty much the same for the whole class itself. Okay, for this, it increases your damage by 21%. This, whenever you use this skill, you will be able to decrease your opponent's defense by 5%. Okay, lasting for 3 seconds. So if I'm gonna use a lot of PvP and PKs, PvE and PvP, I would consider using this. Okay, and if I'm just purely PvE, I'll be using this damage increase. Okay, either both works. Okay, closing out skill, I won't be putting much probably, but you can consider about having a cooldown for 1.5 seconds, or increase your defense by 6%, lasting for 4 seconds, or increase your movement speed for 20% for the next 2 seconds once every time you trigger these skills. Okay, for this last third one, okay, you are looking at pretty much the same thing. Increase your particular skill damage by 25%, and this one is increase your movement speed by 50%, lasting for 3 seconds, and this is cooldown your skill by 2 seconds. Okay, this is a charging skill if I'm not wrong. Okay, you can have the skill damage for 40% increment. So for this is that whenever your opponent has less than 20% HP, okay, you are able to knock down the opponent for 2 seconds. Okay, this is a knockdown skill and cooldown for 2 seconds. Okay. Sorry, not cooldown. Reduce your cooldown by 2 seconds. Okay, I haven't learned this skill, but it's up to you. Okay, if you are more on a PvE purely, okay, I will go for all that increases your damages. But if I want to use the knight, I'll go with things like replenishing my HP or increasing my defense so that I can last even longer. Okay, and there are even skills that works well for both PvE and PvP, like bleeding capability and cooldown. Okay, this, in my opinions, these are some of the way I would do if I am the Swordman.